Hello everyone and welcome to Timberborn Update 4. What you have just seen was a feature trailer for this update, and in a moment you'll be able to see all of that in action. My name is Michal and I'm the communication manager for Timberborn, and today I'm joined by our excellent game designer Adrian. Hello Adrian.
Hello, everyone.
It is not a secret that Update 4 is kind of Iron Thief biased, so most of the new content is related to the Iron Thief. So I think it would be a good idea to start with a new game on the Iron Thief faction. So Adrian, why don't we start with an Iron Thief game? Which map would you recommend?
Well, we just added a new map called Craters. So let's show it to everyone. Let's just start on normal.
What is special about this map?
As the name suggests, there's a lot of craters. 3 in total. Typo. Oh, yep, illegal characters. Hello. So let's pause and show the map for now. So yeah, as I mentioned, we have some craters here. We have the biggest, the major crater that you start in, right next to the water source. And the river flows down into the second crater, which is right over here. And that's also the point where the biggest river on the map flows out of the map. And then there's the third crater, which has its own little river that flows out pretty much immediately. So maybe you can work out some way to redirect it or transform it into a reservoir. We removed the district limits in this update, so I just wanted to create a map that just sort of embraces it and gives you some long distance objectives, but ones that you can also do while playing without district separations.
Okay, and as I said, this update is mostly Iron Thief focused in terms of new content. And why would I say that?
So yeah, in this update, besides the district overhaul and the optimizations that we did, we also completely remade the Iron Thief food production. So now you have a whole range of different buildings for Iron Thief that are Iron Thief exclusive. You will not be able to play them, play with them as Folktails. So to start with, we have the fermenter, which will ferment various foods, an oil press, which will squeeze out oil out of canola plants. Then we have the hydroponic gardens, which also produce food. I mean, just produce raw plants rather than process them, like most of the things in this tab. And they are stackable gardens, basically. They produce mushrooms and algae. And then the last two is the food factory, which is the most advanced food production facility. And it will transform foods into rations. And then a little bit of an extra. It will not sustain your beavers when it comes to hunger, but it will definitely make them happy. It's the coffee brewery that makes coffee. So yeah, besides these buildings, we also have a range of new crops. We do not have any crops returning from the Folktails faction right now, or before this update, the Iron Thief. We have the kohlrabis, which basically replace the carrots as the early game food. This will be the first thing you will probably want to plant. However, it's a bit less efficient than carrots, so you will want to industrialize quite early, maybe sooner than with Folktails. Then we have cassava and soybeans, which are both like the sort of tier 2 food, like potatoes, for example, in Folktails. And you will be able to ferment them, but soybeans will require some canola oil. So we have some buildings just combining pretty early on, as opposed to Folktales, which have you produce flour, like mid-game-ish. And then for the late game, we have corn and eggplants, and obviously the hydroponic gardens, which will produce their own foods. But yeah, the plants, or like the crops, are not the only plants that we're adding. We have also changed the trees and bushes a bit. Well, bushes. We've added a new bush to the Iron Thief. There's no Folktail bush right now. So we have the coffee bush here, which will obviously give you coffee beans that you can make into coffee. And then something that was suggested by the community quite a lot, we've added an aquatic tree to the Iron Thief, which also is the only aquatic plant in the Iron Thief faction right now, since the aquatic farmhouse has become an Folktales exclusive.
As you said, this is quite a complicated food chain. We have many new crops and many new buildings, but because this is a complete rework of the food chain for the Iron Thief, we can see the new crops and buildings in action right from the start. So why don't we start with the beginnings and the kohlrabi?
Yep, let's just get our little beaver community settled. So let's navigate to those berries over here to get some food source going, get some wood chopping done, and let's get some. Probably won't be able to get anything from there. Let's put a water pump right over here. And as this is being done, we can probably start thinking about making that kohlrabi farmhouse. So yeah, on creators we could place the farmhouse here, I guess, or we could also think about destroying this barrier, but it will drain the water a bit and basically make the flow a bit weaker, unless we can plug it up a bit, which I don't think we can afford right now, especially since we only have access to dams and not the cheaper levees. So I think we can just remain in the center for now. Let's just place the farmhouse on the dry land to make sure that we have as much available as possible.
I think all Timberborn veterans will now realize that the farmhouse for the Iron Thief has changed a bit. It is smaller, but has anything else changed in farmhouses for both factions?
Yes, so farmhouses have been differentiated between the factions. So let me pause the game. So we have the normal farmhouse, which remains the same for the Iron Thief, but its model is now smaller. It's now 2x2 instead of 2x3, like it used to be. And the Folktails variant, it was the old size, but it has an additional worker slot.
And it is now called the efficient farmhouse.
Yes, it's very efficient.
Yeah, like everything related to food in terms of efficiency, Folktails are just better at this. Or am I wrong?
Well, it depends on your setup, really. Now, the Folktail faction is more dependent on just using logs to burn in the food processing chain. While the Iron Thief are more just power dependent, so they will process food using power. So you will first have to have that power source going, and then you will be able to produce things, which just makes using your compact power wheels or just emergency compact water wheels, if I said power wheels, and then emergency power wheels as well, to just produce even the most basic foods.
Which makes sense, right? Because Iron Thief are the most industrial faction we have. They are focused on building like barracks and other buildings that are more focused on quantity, not necessarily the comfort of living, for example, it would make sense to see them produce food in a similar fashion in a more industrial way, right?
Yes. Speaking of barracks, I put some down right over here. And let's just get some basic storages going. So this should do for now. Our kohlrabies, they grow up pretty fast, but as I mentioned, when you do the math, they're a bit less efficient than the carrots. You can actually probably plant more of them, since our farmers are just lazy. This should still be in range, yeah. Sure, why not give them even more work to do. Yeah, as usual, Timberborn early game goes, we should probably work towards getting some planks. Let's just make sure that we will be storing the kohlrabies. I think I might have been a bit too ambitious with that field here, because I think that could make a good water wheel spot. So yeah, another, actually, now that we stumbled upon it, way that we differentiated the factions is the Iron Thief got an industrial lumber mill. It has an additional worker slot. It will use up a bit more resources and power, but in the end, it should be making more logs, as long as you have the man for beaver power.
And this is not something that is new with update 4, but if you are new to the game, you may also want to know that one of the key differences between the Folktails and the Iron Thief is the way they grow their numbers. So how does our industrial faction create new beavers?
Yes, so the Folktails are a bit maybe uncivilized when you're just looking from the Iron Thief standpoint. They basically fill in the empty spots in their lodges. I won't disclose how they do it, because it happens overnight. But when it comes to the Iron Thief, they have these breeding pots that you basically just plop down. I think we can do 2 of them. And with some water and berries and a little bit of beaver magic or ingenuity, beavers will come out, and eventually they will work for you.
But you, just like in any normal society, you need to take care of your kids, in this case kids.
Yes, with a T.
So the breeding pots need to be maintained, and I believe basically all colonists do this in their free time after labor. So
yes.
It seems that the kids are like a shared responsibility of the entire colony.
Yep. So as you can see, the needed nutrients are 5 water and 5 berries in total. So they will have to be visited by adults a few times to basically keep them filled with those resources. We are running a bit low on logs, it seems. Let's just make a path here towards these trees here. Could also probably just chop down these birch trees over here. There's a little staircase leading there. Oh, just barely outside of range. But yeah, because there's no district limits right now, you can easily just reach those faraway trees. So normally, like, this tree bunch would be outside of reach. Now we can see there's still like a red indicator that indicates that it's far. And it's sort of a signal that you might want to optimize the path a little bit, or maybe you want to split your district up. Or sorry, your districts up into smaller bunches, but they will still work. They will be hungry, they will be thirsty, but it's no longer going to be a problem if you just have that one single damn block that you need to build.
I appreciate the pun. Yeah, but extending the district limits or basically removing them was one of the most common requests that we had from our players. So we are very happy to do this finally. You are now able to cover the entire map, no matter how large, with a single district, if that's what you want. As Adrian said, it may not be the most efficient way of doing things, but you can do so if you wish. And this is just one of the things that we've made with this update that allow you to build larger colonies. The other being the increased performance of the game. And we are not talking about small numbers. We are pretty convinced that we can safely say that we have improved the frame rate by up to 80%. And spoiler, many players have reported that their gains are even larger. So if you have been hesitant about picking up Timberborn because of the performance, you may now want to check it out and see if you will see different results, because we are pretty happy with what our coders managed to achieve over the past 6 months, I believe. It was a lot of work to do this. Many approaches were tested, but finally we managed to increase the performance a lot. And I mean it a lot.
Yes. So we're about done with the basics here. Some storages are still being made. We just need to get those logs from over here. We do have 2 beavers that are just lazing around. So let's hire them as woodcutters. And these birch trees should be getting down quite soon. Maybe we should increase the priority on the water wheel. Let's see, okay. So yeah, kohlrabi production is looking good. Still have some emergency berries. Berries are, like, as we mentioned, because of the breeding pods, they are no longer just an emergency food, they are also now a necessity. So if it's going to be your first time trying the Iron Teeth because you are afraid of, just different gameplay, then just make sure that you have that gather running, or at least every now and then. Like, there's nothing to do here, we can do a little bit of micromanagement and redirect them elsewhere. Because those berries will need to be there for the breeding pods. But luckily, they are consumed last, since they don't have any specific need attached to them.
Yeah, because as everyone knows, a beaver of the future is grown in the beaver juice made of berries and water. It's like common knowledge at this point. Okay, so we have our colony running on kohlrabis, which are not very tasty or efficient. What is the next step?
Yeah, so the next step, obviously we need to get some planks running with this industrial lumber mill trademark. Pending, probably. I'm not sure if there's a society that would approve of a trademark. So we can get some trees running over here, and because we need to make a forester. For that we also need to build an inventory, which I completely forgot about. So let's plop down one down over here, make sure that it's built ASAP. Once that's done, actually even before that, yeah, we should be able to build a fermenter, which if we plant some cassava, I'm not sure what's the plural right now, then we will be able to get a better food running. So it has a bit of an unusual shape, definitely one that we haven't used in Timberborn so far. So just a straight line, but it makes it nice if you can just plop it on a line like this. Like, I actually didn't plan for this, so it's nice that it can just fit in places like that.
And we could probably talk a lot about its shape, but let's relegate this to some content creators.
Yeah, it's not a Steam-friendly topic.
Yep. Yeah, so basically, as you can see, after we have our kohlrabis being consumed raw, the next foods that we have will require new buildings where they will be processed. And we managed to, I think we managed to nail that industrial feel with that. When our fermenter is created, you will be able to see that it is possible to ferment a few different types of food. And this is a common theme, I think, with our building, with other buildings that we have added. It is also possible to pick from different recipes. I'm not sure if we'll be able to show the more advanced buildings on this save, but don't worry, we have another save coming to be shown a bit later, where Adrian will be able to show you how the advanced food chain operates in an Iron Thief colony.
Yep. So right now we just need some science points for the forester. And we also need to wait for these cassavas to grow up. So while we do that, we can probably think about the upcoming water shortage. But we have some spur logs. We could probably make a dam right about here, so our pump still works. Our water wheel is going to dislike that, but well, it works. And the shortage in power should only last until the end of the drought. Until then we could just pop down a power wheel. I have no idea where I would be able to fit one, outside of destroying some crops. But let's just make sure that things are running over here. We need those builders, but we can probably just get rid of... yeah, this guy's just lazing around. So let's disable this lumberjack flag, and he should be coming over here. Nice.
And when we have our forester finished, I think we will have also a little new thing to show to everyone, because we have added a new type of tree.
Yes. Oh, we have some
Technically,
broken
we
teeth.
have two new kinds of trees, I believe.
Yes, actually. So the maples, which used to be the highest yielding trees in the game, are now replaced. I think those are the... yes, are now replaced by the oak trees, which basically just took their numbers away, and we made the maple trees Folktails exclusive. Some of the maple syrup, it's used only in Folktails food chain right now. So yeah, Folktails have the maple trees and chestnut trees as well. Those are also now Folktails exclusive. And the Iron Thief also have two things in this little trees and bushes tab, which is the coffee bush and the mangrove. I don't think we'll be
But wait,
able to...
isn't a mangrove tree a tree that is growing in water?
Yes, it is an aquatic tree. So we will only be able to... well, we can plant it outside. Actually, no, if there's no water, I don't think the forester will take care of it. But it will only grow up when it's inside water. I think, yes, it will only grow in like one deep water.
So it's not like we took the aquatic farmhouse away from the Iron Thief and did not give anything aquatic in return. They now have this one-of-a-kind aquatic tree, which not only grows in water, it also yields very tasty fruit.
Yes, it gives you logs and fruit. So theoretically, I haven't seen anyone do that yet, I think. So you're welcome to try it if anyone is listening in and is tempted by it. But theoretically, you could just cover the entire map in water and then just create some metal platforms above them and just produce all the logs and food from that water pool that you have going. And then also the hydroponic gardens that we're also adding now. So I haven't seen... yeah, I haven't seen the beaver version of Waterworld just yet, but I'm looking forward to it, because it's
yeah,
definitely
it
coming.
sounds kind of dystopian, I think. Just the entire colony living on metal platforms with the mangrove trees going below them, with no access to sun, by the way, but that's how our game works.
A lot of beaver life, though, like, it can definitely compensate.
Yeah, totally.
We are running short. Okay, we have enough science points. Let's just plop down that forester. And once it's down...
I think our fermenter is also finished.
Yes, but we don't have any cassavas just yet. They are almost done, like 5% left.
Right.
So in the meantime, I will plant some pine trees over here. And this will basically guarantee that we have a wood future in this colony. So yeah, the cassavas are coming in. We should probably unpause this fermenter. And we have a surplus of logs. We could also just hire one less worker in here and increase the priority on here. So yeah, we should be getting the first fermented cassava soon. We need one more. There we go. So it's producing some fermented food right now. There we go. So one characteristic of the fermenter is that it, instead of something that is usually the case in the Folktails, at least the early game, like take one resource and then produce more, it will need more resources to start the process. So you definitely need that high production instead of just singular crops growing up every now and then.
So what are the other options for the fermenter? What can it produce?
So besides the cassava, we have the soybeans and the mushrooms. Soybeans we can't just... maybe I shouldn't have done that. Soybeans we can't just produce like the cassavas. We also need the canola oil. So that's behind some more tech a bit. So we will need that oil press and obviously a canola field. And then the mushrooms, they are also a bit different. They do not need oil anymore, but they only grow in the hydroponic garden. So we really wanted to allow people to just develop their colonies in different ways and just have different things available to them instead of just being that one linear path.
Great.
So we
can
have
we
that
plant some
perfect
mangrove
timing,
trees, maybe?
Sure can do. We just need some more science points for these stairs. We can probably improve that by just plopping up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just in love with the mangrove.
Yes,
Just
mangrove
eager to
trees
try it.
are definitely really nice looking. I haven't eaten the mangrove fruit just yet. I'm hoping to get a hang of it someday. I don't think you can mail it because it's like Far Eastern produce, I think.
But now it's on your bucket list, so I'm sure you will try it one day.
If there's any fans that have access to them, as much as I would love it, please don't mail it to our office. We work mostly remotely. It would be a bother to the people that are in the office that maybe they don't share the love for the mangrove fruits.
Yeah. So as we wait for our science points to come, what else would you tell us about the differences between the Iron Thief and the Folktails in terms of how they build their colonies?
Sure. So obviously some buildings are different shapes, like the lodges on Folktails. They are 2 by 2 and 1 high. Meanwhile, the first building for the Iron Thief is this giant barrack that just fits a ton of beavers. And then we have the large barracks and the row houses. Large barracks are obviously a larger version of the barracks, while the row houses are, they have a little footprint, but they are very tall. So they make for some excellent bases for vertical cities.
Because if you are completely new to the game, I'm sorry, Adrian, I just wanted to point it out, we have this feature called stackability in the game. It is very unique take on how the colonies are built. You are able to place many buildings atop one another, and barracks are a perfect example of that. And you can stack, I'm not sure how many of them one atop each other, but you can build really, really tall structures this way.
I mean, there's no limit to stacking buildings, as long as you just have this flat base available, so I would be able to stack these barracks on top of one another until we reach the height limit of the map, which, as you can see the terrain around us, it's still like a bit above that, because we leave a little bit for you, so we can always just go a bit higher than the map starts with. So the drought is ending right now. We're just barely making it with the water. I think that dam really came by clutch in the last day. Actually, oh, we didn't need stairs. Oh, we did need stairs. They don't reach this far. Silly me, because I actually made these stairs on purpose here in this map, so people playing the Iron Thief would be able to plant the mangrove trees. But I forgot about it.
That's a shame.
But now we have some stairs available, so let's just put them down here, and we will definitely be able to reach this. So let's just put some mangrove trees in here. I think this will be a good start. So some things are growing. Let's.
So just to clarify one thing for our viewers, even though we do not have the district limits, there is the area covered by a building. In this case, a forester remains limited in a way, right? So we need to place it in a correct spot to cover the area that you want covered with forest. In this case, a mangrove forest, right?
Yes, exactly. The limits are also just there to make it a bit easier for the player, even though it's a limitation. It's just so like this farmhouse here will not, for example, just run all the way here to pick up some things, because it will obviously just waste majority of its day. You can also see that I placed down 2 farmhouses here. That's because even like this limit is quite large. One farmhouse, unless it's like a crop that takes really, really long time to grow, it will not be enough to take care of it. I think you will need to wait a bit longer for those, unless... No, we would have to just unmark the planting area, but just for the sake of showing the mangrove trees, I'll make sure that they are the first being planted. They will need a bit of time to grow up, I think. Yeah, 10 days just for the tree, and then 10 more days for the fruit. Which should be around 1 cycle.
I think the advantage of growing the fruit is that you are able to eat it raw as well, just like with the kohlrabi.
Yes, so with the Folktails, you only have 2 raw sources of food, which is the carrots and the berries. And the berries, they don't provide any extra well-being or happiness to the beavers. In the Iron Thief case, you have the mangrove trees, which you will also be able to eat raw.
Cool. So I think now that the mangroves are growing, I'm not sure if we should just wait for them to be ready. I think this is a good moment to make a jump to our more advanced saved game, where you will be able to see the new Iron Thief food chain in its entirety. So stick with us, and we'll be right back.
Yep, see you soon.
Okay, hello again. We are back to our Iron Thief playthrough. This time we are in a much more advanced colony. This is also a creator's map, but as you can see, we are now far beyond what we were a moment ago. So we will now show you all the new cool stuff that Adrian has already developed on this map. So what do we have here outside of the mangrove trees and the fermenter with cassavas and the kohlrabi?
Yes, so a moment ago we showed you us planting the mangrove trees. So we have some growing over here, and they are, well, just chilling. I think we are... Yes, we are gathering some fruits over here. So let's just unpause the game, so just goes on its own. And compared to the previous save, where we just started with the kohlrabies and some cassavas, we should have all the possible foods running over here, including the coffee. So yeah, I think we can just go through them in order. Just all the buildings in general. So we still have some fermenters going on over here. And then we have the elusive oil press, which makes some canola oil. And it also allows us to process the soybeans over here. All in that basically big fermenter quarter over here. So we obviously need to run a bit more power through this district, or sorry, this part of the district. So we have some compact water wheels and power wheels and the engines. The engines and the compact water wheels being unique to this faction. If we
and how does the oil press operate? What does it use to create the oil?
Yes, so it uses I lost it here. So it uses canola seeds, which is very yellow. Yes, we can find it very easily. So it's just this big bundle of plant.
Yeah, and a little bit of trivia: if you travel through Poland right now, we have many fields covered with canola all across the country. So
yes,
it's like Timberborn reflects real life.
Yes, perfect season to release this update. When it comes to the next tier of production, well, we have the food factory, which in this case making corn rations. Corn rations, they don't really need anything else besides just a little bit of heat, so they only use corns and logs. But then we have some eggplant rations, which require that oil once again. And then the third option, which is the algae rations, which just need the algae and actually canola, I forgot about that. So they are sort of that pinnacle food, but they are also producing the biggest numbers. And,
as a building that large should probably do, right?
Yes. So yeah, same as with all the other liquids, after the entire storage rework, you can also store the canola oil in tanks, which have this lovely golden color that you can just showcase around your town. And then the last thing, food related, is the coffee brewery, which only one of them is working right now. I think we are producing a little... Yes, we seem to have a little coffee seed shortage. But we have a small tank here, just filled to almost to the brim with coffee, which also has this very nice foamy effect on the edges. And I don't know, maybe you just want to pump your beavers with coffee and make them work faster, because that's the outcome.
They are allowed only a limited amount of coffee a day, because otherwise they would probably just overdose it, because they aren't if they want to stay awake and work all day, I guess.
Yes, definitely just working hard is the key idea behind the RMT faction. They would just snatch it if they could.
I think we could show the crops themselves, like
yeah. Let's just wait for daytime so we can show it a bit more. But we already showed you the kohlrabies and the cassavas in the last playthrough. Here are the soybeans, which are very similar looking to the normal beans, but they are soy. You don't want to eat it raw, just in case you didn't know. Same with the cassavas and potatoes for the Folktails. And Speaking of which, also the eggplants, which are also quite not healthy for you if eaten raw. But yeah, these are the last two crops that are just normally grown, which is the corn and the before mentioned eggplants. It's this nice purple and yellow colors. Sorry, these are the last two traditionally grown plants. We still have some hydroponic gardens that are stackable building, so you can build them on top of platforms, you can build things on top of them. You don't have to build hydroponic gardens, you could build housing or storages on top of them, but in this case we just have this nice stacked garden that you can just see the water pouring on top of them as the mushrooms and the algae are growing.
And spoiler, it takes a lot of time for them to grow. So
yes,
you need to be patient with those.
Yes, it's definitely not something that you can just rush immediately. Not only because it grows longer, but it also requires some advanced technology like metal to build. Speaking of metal, we are getting some over here. As we mentioned, there are no district limits right now. I absolutely don't remember what the district center is. Okay, here. As you can see, buildings here have some green and yellow connections. Those are like the distances that we recommend, as like the beavers shouldn't have too much trouble traveling between these points. But further and further we go from the district center, you will notice that the area becomes red fairly quickly, and those beavers will take quite a while to reach some necessities. You can mitigate that by just placing down storages like this with food and setting them to obtain, which is the new priority setting. And what obtain does, it basically tells the haulers, I want the storage filled up first. So the other settings are the default one, accept, which as the text here will say, it will just accept goods. It will not steal resources from other warehouses or other storages if it's a tank or a pile. And then we have the obtain, which will prioritize obtaining resources. Then we have supply, which will not get resources from other warehouses, but it will be filled if it's like next to a place that's producing the resource that's selected in there. So for example, we can, just like an easy optimization is, we can put down a little warehouse set to obtain, and getting some corn placed next to the food factory. And then we have a little storage for the output, the corn rations, that's set to supply. And it will basically prioritize taking those resources that it needs, and then it will prioritize basically just removing those districts, those resources across the district. But for those settings to work properly, you will need haulers, which were sort of like an optional optimization before. But now they are quite handy to running the districts, especially if you have those bigger distances. Because while normal worker beavers are busy working in this part, for example, the haulers will make sure that they are supplied with food and water in the area.
Yeah, take notes, everyone. We will show you in a moment what to do with the district system that can help you mitigate the problems with distances. Adrian, if you could click just one path tile so that we can see the new overlay. Yeah, the heat map, actually. That's the correct name.
So
why
this
are
is the heat map?
some buildings red and why are some buildings red and why are some green?
Yes, so this is just a handy way to visualize your distances better. If the paths are not readable to you, it also makes it easier to see the vertical structures, especially if they're stacked like this, which makes it impossible to see the paths unless you use the layer tool. But it gives you an overview basically of what could maybe be separated into another district, or where paths could be organized better. Like, for example, maybe instead of just this little labyrinth, we could make some buildings work better by just building a path straight there. Similarly, maybe we just want to cut off this district, this part of the district into its own district, so it will basically be its own self-contained system. So as before this update, districts were mostly just creating this new settlement in the distance. Now it's more like an optimization tool where you just cut your existing town into pieces and they actually behave like districts rather than their own separate towns.
Cool. So before we jump to the Folktails save to show you that in detail, why don't we show people at least one new monument for the Iron because as part of this update and making the factions more unique, each faction has received a new set of monuments in update 4. So what do we have here for the Iron Thief?
Yeah, so we already have this labor monument built here. So each faction has a unique set of 3 monuments that are sort of on similar stages of progression, but they differ visually quite a lot. Maybe those first monuments, this Laborer monument and the Folktails Farmer monument, are a bit similar because they just present this basic worker idea for the faction. But then the more advanced versions, for example the Flame of Unity, which, let's think where we can place it. We can probably do a little bit, just fire in here, I guess. We'll just increase its priority, and we just finished the working hours. Let's just extend them a bit, and this should be built soon. But in the meantime, this is the last of the monuments for the Iron Thief, the tribute to ingenuity, which shares the name with the last monument that the game had until now. But it looks quite a lot different than it used to. So it's... maybe I shouldn't be showing it around the crops. So it's just this beaver atlas from mythology just holding this mechanical cube. And as before, it does require power to run. So let's make sure that it's built next to some power source, or that we can just connect one to it easily. Actually, no idea where to connect it in this layout.
I think we could delete one of the engines, maybe?
Yeah, sure. I think this one will be the scenic version. So I think we can just look over the town, actually, from this perspective. Let's see, how is this coming along? Okay. So we have some planks going. We still need some metal blocks. They are quite expensive. Like, monuments are basically like as expensive as it gets when it comes to buildings. They are just this showcase of your beaver prowess and that you've survived to build all those things. They also provide a very significant well-being boost in its area. So it's probably nice to build it next to the housing to make sure all the beavers are covered by it, because it's so expensive. Obviously, at some point, you might just want to build a ton of them, but if you build them for the first time, that's probably the best way to do it. And as you can see, the tribute to ingenuity compared to the labor monument, its range is quite large.
Yeah, fortunately, there are also easier and smaller ways of increasing the well-being in terms of more decorative buildings. We have decorations in the game, and there are also some changes that update 4 brings in terms of how the decorations look between factions.
Yeah, so while we're waiting for the monuments and the day to come, we can take a look at the decorations that changed visually. So first on the list is this bench over here. That looks different than it used to. Just increase the construction site priority. And the second one is a shop. We can probably just make this little park area.
Yeah, everyone, this is what Iron Thief believe to be a park.
There's
a
some
bench
green
next
around.
to a shrub.
Close enough. We maybe want to have some more builders running as well. Let's just plop some down right over here. Okay. Oh, didn't click that. Oh, we also have some just available bots, I guess. So let's just relegate them to building duty. Yeah, so while those things coming along, the last things that changed between factions are the fences. So each faction now has two, at least they share the wood fence, but it looks different between the factions. And then the second fence is different between the factions. The Iron Teeth have this metal fence, and the Folktails have this little hedge.
Which we'll show in a moment.
Yep. We can just make a little nice wood fence over here, just to at least give them some more security, I guess, from the evil plans. And then we can place down this. Oh, I think something just finished. Yep. So this is the Flame of Unity, and as you can see, our well-being is going up quite a bit. And again, as more beavers just get exposed to the effect. So yeah, it's this little monument to beavers holding a fire together. And what better to hold beavers together than just metal fence here. Yep, oh, and the bench is done. We have some beavers taking rest. As this is working hours, only the jobless and sometimes jobless bots as well and kids will take a little rest here. And yeah, this shrub also changed visually. I think the most important thing about the shrubs is that this is now possible. A lot of people were complaining about not being able to put shrubs under platforms or shrubs on top of platforms. So you can now do it for both factions, just to optimize that space a bit more.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the highlights of the update.
Yep.
And how is our tribute coming along? Oh, it's...
Yep, it's taking quite a bit. We can hire some more bots here. They will carry more stuff and work after hours, so it should speed it up a bit. While we do that, we can maybe even build more builders.
Actually, you know what? I think we could leave it as a teaser for the players to discover. I think they now have an idea how this looks. Maybe we should just jump to the Folktails save to show our players and viewers how the new district crossings operate and how the new distribution works. So
sure.
Give us a moment and we will be back with the Folktails in a second.
See you in a moment.
Hello once again. This time we are looking at a Folktails settlement, and as we said before, the districts in Timberborn no longer have range limits, but they are still present and you can use them to make your colonies more efficient. So Adrian, why don't you tell us how the new reworked districts work and why should we use them?
Yeah, so just to give you a quick reminder, we don't have the limits as you mentioned, but you still want to probably just separate your town into districts at some points. Like, as you can see, like, these buildings are getting orangish and this is just pure red. It's just taking a long time to get beavers there. I've tried to optimize it a bit by just connecting the path straight to the housing. Might even do a little road here. But what used to be pretty much like the first real hurdle when it comes to the distance until now was, like, in most cases, scrap metal. So that was probably like the first case. A lot of people had to make districts. Now, if you really want, you can really just extend that path outward and just plop that scavenger flag down, and it will get built real soon. This beaver is just running in here. But it is very red. And just to showcase you how easy it is, we can just demolish these two paths. This beaver will be very unhappy because it just started working there. But we have this district crossing that we just need a bit more science points, actually. So once we're able to build it, we'll just put it down, and it will quite naturally just connect these districts. So the way it works right now is we have this distribution tab, which allows you to control all the things, and it also has some default settings that we thought that it might be handy just to start all the districts with them. So each resource has a few things you can set for them. First is the export threshold, which will basically say keep like 30% of gears, don't export them. So it will only export when and what it has above the 30%. Next thing is those three buttons here. So you can just set your resource do not import, and then the district will obviously not import that resource. So if you want to just purely export something and you don't want to get it back, then just click do not import and it will not find its way back to the district. The default setting for most of the resources, actually, yeah, most of the resources, is import if needed. And then it will only import the resource if there's a need in the district. So, for example, if we wanted some more advanced resource in this town, like, are we producing anything advanced here, actually? The gears, I believe. We would have to put down a warehouse, then set it to gears, and then once that warehouse is built, we will have gear demand, and the workers in the disk crossing that we can now unlock and build, and just wait for it to be done. Yeah, they will just deliver it. The last setting is import always, which basically treats the crossing as the warehouse that has demand. So the district crossing can hold, I think it's 30 of each resource, and it will basically just always be filled with those resources, as long as they are available, obviously. So this setting is the default for all the foods, the biofuel if you're playing Folktails, and water and basic building resources like logs and planks. So for example, if we wanted those gears that I mentioned, then we would have to either build that warehouse or set it to import always, and then it will always be carried over.
So does it mean that the distribution between the districts is kind of automatic right now? Do I need to, every time I set out to create a new district, do I have to spend like 5 minutes making choices for each particular good, what should be done with it? Or can I just place another district center, connect it with district crossing, and that's it, it will work on its own?
Yeah, that's pretty much as you said. It will... I don't like to say it, but it will just work. So, like as you will be able to see, beavers are just delivering those berries, logs. Even though we haven't really clicked anything, I just showed you that panel, like you wouldn't have to even open it. you can also see a little short list of the status of all the resources. So if you can see this green arrow, it will say that it's imported and why it's imported. So in the biofuel case, and we are not really producing right now, but the berries, we can see that the import is forced by distribution settings. When it comes to gears, they are not imported yet, so that storage would have to be built first. So let's migrate some population over here, and let's just do like a minimum of 3 workers here. Once again, from the previous update, this is like migration panel, and you can also automate it a bit by just setting the minimums of population that you want to keep in the districts. So even if we don't build any housing, or don't have any housing specifically built for breeding beavers, they would still basically get sent over from District 1 to this District 3, just disguised. And then you can also just send beavers manually, just by clicking these buttons in ones, tens, or just all of them. So those beavers are now here. As we can see, there's a beaver working the scavenger flag, and if we look here, now the gears are imported because there's storage and workplace requirement. It's basically the same thing. So slowly those gears will be transported here, and we still need more beavers actually, or just make this beaver work here, and it will move the resources around.
So what it means is that when you set a new district, you do not need to create an entire infrastructure, right? You do not need to have an entire set of all the warehouses, tanks, and piles for all the goods, because the initial work will be done just with the district center and the district crossing, right?
Yes, so before we used to have the distribution split into 2 buildings, the distribution post and the drop-off point, and you had to basically choose starting building and then the building that it was delivering to, and that was definitely a bit unwieldy, so we hopefully improved it in this update. Like, you don't even have to really use that district mechanic if you are really set on making this large district that beavers will just starve through, sometimes walking the large distances. But yeah, I showed that distribution panel, which may also seem a bit intimidating. Like, if you're a more advanced player, then you'll definitely be at home here, just be able to get an overview of all the distribution happenings. But yeah, as you mentioned, you don't have to open that panel. If you just build a building that needs this resource stored, or it needs that resource to work, you will just get it delivered to that district automatically. And it will also balance those resources between the districts.
Yeah, the idea was to make the districts less annoying and hopefully more useful. And judging by the initial feedback, we have achieved that, but we want to hear from you. So after you have a chance to play with Update 4, be sure to let us know how you find it. This is kind of interesting because at first everyone wanted us to remove the district limits, and after we did it, some people on the experimental branch told us that they actually liked the limits. So you can't please everyone, I guess, but the majority of players wanted us to get rid of the limits. We did so, and as you said, it just works. All right.
Famous words.
So we are in Folktails settlement right now. As we said before, most of the content updates in Update 4 were designed for the Iron Thief, but there are also some new content pieces for Folktails as well. I think we could show the hedges here, for example.
Yeah, for sure. So as we mentioned before, there's 2 faction unique fences. The Iron Thief had that metal fences that we showed you, and their own version of the wood fence. The Folktails have the hedge and the wood fence. So the hedge is just this little nice decorative plant that you can just put around. Compared to normal crops or trees or bushes. It doesn't require irrigated land, and you can also just put it on top of other buildings if you really want to. Yeah, and then the wood fence, which is just a little refreshed version of the old wood fence. And another thing is that different kinds of fences will no longer connect, which should make it a bit nicer visually in the towns, which just had different fences.
Yeah, they're really fancy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and
yeah.
we also have that refreshed shrub look, and the bench, which we will be able to afford in a moment.
You can basically build these little hedge mazes for the Folktails if you want.
Yep, and yeah, the Folktail version of the bench is a bit more decorative. It functions exactly the same, but it fits in with their new decorations a bit more.
And there are also new monuments for the Folktails faction, but I think to show them as the last bit of this showcase, we will need to jump to the more advanced version of this colony.
Yeah, monuments are definitely an endgame building, so let's just switch the map, switch the save, and show you.
Yeah, see you in a moment. Okay, hello again. As a final bit for this live stream, or stream at all, we'll show you the more advanced Folktails colony with the cool new monuments that the faction got in update 4. What do we have here?
Yeah, so let me just find it. There we go. We have the farmer monument to start with. It's like the most basic monument that you have available. It just shows this happy little beaver carrying a stack of hay. And it's definitely inspirational to the beavers around. That's why I just build it around this huge apartment complex. The next monument is the Brazier of Bonding, which I also believe was in the corner here somewhere. There we go. And yeah, compared to the Iron Teeth, which have this flame of unity, which just shows them working together, and Folktails have a little bit of a different value set. They value their family. It's a bit more natural in their case, and just have this little family around the fire. Just warm your beavers' hearts as they work overtime in your fields. And the last monument, which is completely different from what we've had until now, is what we call Fountain of Joy. And it's quite literally a fountain. And it has those two beavers on top, just pouring water onto this fountain. And
being joyful, may I add.
Yes, very joyful. And compared to the tribute of ingenuity in the Iron Teeth and in the game up until now, which required power, this building requires to be submerged in the water a bit. So if we disable the water, you can sort of see this like base level, 1 block high, has those pipe intakes, and as long as there's water, it will work. It will just have water flowing and making your beavers happy.
Perfect.
And yeah, just to maybe just sort of rundown of the districts, like let's just select this map to make it easier. Like this district is quite large, but as we showed in the previous segment, we can just separate the districts to get some iron from here. We also have a little district for producing the golems. Sorry, bots. Still haven't learned. Yeah, just to sort of prove the setup of just making food here, making iron here, or sorry, gathering iron here, making bots here, and then those bots work in the fields here. You can just have all fancy setups running pretty much automatically. And if something is a problem, just click a button and it will just start managing to an extent.
You have already teased that, but yeah, there is this little sign in the background. I guess we can show it.
Yeah, the beautiful sign. If some of you paid attention to the trailer for the previous update, there was a little pixel art of a beaver made out of storages. That was my idea, however it came out. But in here you have a new attempt on a Hollywood-style Timberborn sign. I definitely learned a lot from it, and hopefully the next one will be better. But if you just squint your eyes, you can make out the letters, I hope.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, with this little something at the end, we will wrap this up. Just as a short summary, Update 4 is available for everyone right now. You can play it to enjoy a lot of cool new stuff. As a quick rundown, we have the unlimited districts with no limit ranges, with the automated distribution between the districts. We have a new map called the Craters. We have an entirely new food chain for the Iron Thief, including new crops, new buildings that are completely unique and exclusive to the Iron Thief. We have new monuments, we have new decorations, and something that is more difficult to show, but is a game changer for everyone in a literal sense. We have increased the frame rates by up to 80%. So there's a lot of good stuff in Update 4, and we will hope you will check it out because it's available right now.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for watching, and we hope you'll have a great day.
Yeah. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.